Traders, how are you? Marcello here, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. On Monday, overall, we had a pretty volatile week. I visited Chile and Argentina. We just had a trader, Julio. Best of luck to him. He just went live. He's in a wheelchair. My heart goes out to people like that are, gung-ho about life and they want to proceed. I know a lot of us kind of complain about really silly things like, our coffee not being right or the internet being too slow. And when I see people like that are actually doing this, I had a legally disabled person, a deaf person, and also a legally blind person. He could see, but it was really difficult to actually learn how to trade. And so I want to give a shout out to him. Beautiful country, Argentina and Chile both. I'm in Argentina now doing a few events. Overall for the week, Monday, there's a lot of uncertainty due to the Hong Kong protests and also economic growth in China. There's also a lot of U.S. trade tensions still, and the political crisis in Chile, the political crisis in Italy, as well as the no deal Brexit situation is definitely affecting the markets quite a bit. Most of all on Monday, where the markets rocketed to the downside. Tuesday, the U.S. market reversed the earlier losses, going up 1.5% across the board on the news that China and the U.S. were going to have a meeting in 2 weeks, and Trump was actually going to cancel or remove temporarily some of the new tariffs until the 15th of December. Stocks went up 27% so far since Trump has been elected. U.S. markets sharply went down on Wednesday. Poor economic data from both China and Germany. We had a very important indicator that essentially has always predicted a recession within 22 months. That came out on Wednesday. I'll explain that to you guys in just a moment, and that definitely affected the market on Wednesday. Stocks are back now to June levels, and it was the worst daily loss in 2019 for the Dow. U.S. markets rebounded for the most part on Friday morning, and overall for the week, the Dow went down 1.55%, the S&P 500 went down 1.04%, the Nasdaq went down 0.80%. In overseas market news, Argentina may be in for a little bit of turmoil. The left side, and one of the things I want to tell you guys, just to kind of reiterate this, I'm never going to get political on the show, so whatever your beliefs are, if you're right, left, black, white, yellow, purple, doesn't matter. I'm never going to get political. I'm just going to report the news to you guys, okay? So there was a primary election in Argentina, and the opposition party, I should say, which is on the left, is going against, obviously, Macri, which is the current president on the right. And since a lot of investors fear another populist government is going to default on the country's sovereign debt, remember that Argentina took out an insane loan from the IMF. And right now they're in a deep recession. Unemployment rate is 9.5%. Inflation is at 55.8%. The currency in Argentina collapsed 30.3%. At one point, the stock exchange in one day went down 45.8%. Just imagine the stock market in the U.S. going down by almost 50%, even though we have the circuit breakers. So be happy that we live in a country where that kind of stuff doesn't happen, guys. I'll tell you that much. Or if you guys are in Europe or the UK, I know a lot of you guys listen from Canada and Australia as well. And if you guys don't forget, the podcast is available. So just search Day Trading Academy on iTunes, or I believe Stitch is the other one that's popular. They should be able to come up if you guys want to listen to that, or go to the website and look at the blog, and I have the podcast there that you guys can download if you want to listen to it. European markets are far lower as well. The FTSE in London went down by 1.92%. Istanbul's the biggest loser in the European region at 3.83%. Latin American and Canadian markets, obviously the Merval went down, I just mentioned to you guys, by 45.89%, if I didn't say the right number before. Africa and Middle Eastern markets are mixed. Egypt went up 0.81%. South Africa went down 2.71%. And in the Far East, Australia is the biggest loser at 2.73%, and China is one of the only winners this week. The SEC in China at 1.77%. Huge news in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency news. New Zealand became the first country to legally allow payment in Bitcoin. They're going to start it September 1st. The New Zealand Tax Authority is saying that as long as it's a regular wage or salary, they're going to be allowed to pay in cryptos as long as it's fixed amounts and it's on a regular basis. But for some reason, Bitcoin actually went down on that news. That's pretty big news that a government actually approved it. But Bitcoin went down 12.08% for the week at 10,497.40. Financial and banking news: the ongoing U.S.-China trade war put more pressure on the 10-year Treasury note. Obviously, people are rushing to safety. That's why we've had this huge run up in silver and gold. Don't forget who told you about the silver and gold going up. The historic recession indicator, I've explained this lesson to you guys before, but when the interest rate on the 2-year goes up and the interest rate on the 10-year goes down and they actually invert, they cross, there has been a recession within 22 months. So where it's August 2019, 2020, 2021 in August, we should have the economic contraction. The last inversion was in December 2005, 2 years before the recession that brought on the financial crisis. Remember that recession actually started in 2007, not what we always think of, which is 2008, 2009. U.S. Treasury data: Japan overtook China as the largest non-U.S. holder of treasuries in June. Mexico's central bank went down on their interest rates for the first time since June 2014. Remember last week I reported how all of these other countries are, it's kind of like a race to the bottom basically. So now Mexico also has joined the destroy your economy and finances gang. The yield on the 30 U.S. Treasury note crashed below 2,000 for the first time ever on Thursday, and that also is the strong indication that investors are piling into the U.S. looking for safety. And the U.S. Treasury yields, the inversion is actually accelerating. Crude oil this week: U.S. crude is up 1.18%. International Brent oil is up 0.77%, but it's still down 7% for the month. Gold prices rose on Monday, stayed above the key 1,500 per ounce psychological level, obviously due to the fact that we have still the economic concerns and the U.S.-China trade dispute, even though there's good news this week, triggering the safe haven status. China has cut its shipments by some 300 to 500 tons last year of gold, worth about $15 to $25 billion. They're stemming the flow of dollars out of the country, and China is also the world's biggest importer of gold, buying about 1,500 tons of metal alone last year, about $60 billion. That's equivalent about 1/3 of the world's total annual supply. Now, this is one thing that I always tell you, right? Don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. Why is China buying so? If everybody talks about how China is going to be the next empire, blah, 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 why are they buying so much gold? Gold for the week went up 1% to $15.12, and silver went up 0.82% to $17.17. Political news: Russian President Putin has been in the office as president or prime minister spanning some 2 decades. He's now getting quite a bit of demonstrations in Moscow as a lot of people are weary of more Western sanctions, declining living standards, and increasingly autocratic actions by the central government. If you guys don't know what autocratic means, basically it's just what they say goes. It's absolute power, absolute rule. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his officials in the government have improperly tried to influence a corporate legal case, which may affect his chances for re-election this October. In economic news, Singapore, which is one of the world's financial hubs, is increasingly seeing a weak annual growth. This is actually the weakest that they've seen in a decade. It blames the troubles on the U.S. and Chinese trade war. The war's economic growth may fall to 0 when the expectation was 1.5 to 2.5 this year. China's industrial production also rose 4.8% in July versus the expectation of 5.8%. It's the lowest growth in 17 years. And Cuba is imposing price controls and also on goods and services, price controls, due to the effort to try to tame inflation and increasing the state wages and pensions. New Zealand-based Fonterra, which is the largest exporter of dairy in the world, says that it's expected to lose $436 million this year, and it's not going to pay shareholders a dividend due to the fact that they had problems with their overseas businesses. Saudi Aramco is buying a 20% stake worth near $15 billion in an Indian company called Reliance Industries. It's a chemical and oil business that they're trying to diversify outside of Saudi Arabia so they can have a bit better numbers, or a more complete balance sheet, let's say, before the IPO next year. Top U.S. media firms CBS and Viacom are going to merge. They're creating a combined entertainment empire of $28 billion in revenue. And GE shares plunged over 11% when the guy that found Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme in 2008, he's accusing GE of massive fraud, of hiding up to $40 billion in its insurance business. So that is quite big news if that is actually true. In trade news, China saying that army worms may attack thousands of crops. They may actually have to buy more crops from overseas, including Argentina, Brazil, and even U.S., even though they said that they don't want to buy more crops from the U.S. Funny how the world works, isn't it? And Brazil's economic minister, Paulo Guedes, says that his country is going to pull out of the Mercosur trade bloc if the opposition wins in Argentina and they close the economy and put protectionist policies on the economy. In technology, Amazon is offering developers that use their web services a facial recognition system called Rekognition with a K that is now able to identify fear in people. The software also has face detection, analysis, and recognition of images and videos. So definitely go and use those Amazon services, guys. US FCC Chairman Joe Simmons said that dissolving the tech titans would be challenging, but it may actually be the best market action to be able to restore competition. And the people that are most likely going to be targeted are Amazon, Google, and Facebook. Berkshire Hathaway boosts its stake in Amazon to up to 11% in Q2, increasing big on the online retailer. Ended June with 537,300 shares worth about $1.02 billion. They owned 483,300 shares just 3 months earlier. Hong Kong, 8th busiest international airport in the world, canceled flights on Monday and Tuesday due to the ramifications of the protests that they have there in Hong Kong. They've had these for 10 weeks straight now. Obviously going to affect business and tourism in the region. Luckily, I was literally leaving as they were starting. Chinese government also moved troops to the border. We reported that last week as well. New Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is signed a decree offering Russian citizens citizenship in Ukraine due to political persecution that they've suffered that, and also to foreigners who fought in Ukraine's side in the ongoing conflict in eastern Ukraine. An explosion in northern Russia left 7 people dead and also unleashed radiation on the town of, Severodvinsk. 185,000 residents were suggested to stay home that day. They also spread out iodine pills, and it's reported that it was a new nuclear missile touted by Putin to be able to render NATO's American-led defense system useless. Tiny pieces of plastic has been found in the ice cores drilled in the Arctic by U.S.-led teams of scientists, showing again the threat of this growing form of pollution poses to marine life, even in the most remote waters of the planet. Some Chinese social media users were furious at the online marketplace Amazon on Tuesday when they found t-shirts being sold that actually supported the protests in Hong Kong. Danish politicians scorn the idea of selling Greenland, which is the largest island in the world, has a population of 56,000 people, after reports that Trump actually privately discussed buying the island to his advisors. Indonesia's president is proposing moving the capital. There were some rumors this week that they was going to move the capital of more than 10 million people to the island of Borneo, even though he left a lot of Indonesians kind of guessing because literally Jakarta is sinking. And Spaceport America, which is Virgin Galactic's gateway to space facility, is now fully operational and ready to host the remaining test flights. The VMS Eve is the carrier mothership, and it's going to be the platform for the Mergin spaceships. Arrived this week. So if you have $250,000 laying around, go buy a ticket to go to space. Toy Story 4 crossed the 1 billion mark at the global box office. Disney announced on Thursday, and it makes the animated Pixar film the $5 billion release for Disney this year. The studio is now the holder of the most billion-dollar movies in a single year. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and be careful there in the markets.